jump into talking about the film, I'd really love to get more background on you guys and your involvement in filmmaking. And Darren, well, let's go ahead and start with you. Tell me about your history in filmmaking and what's led you to making The Ferryman.
Well, I started off as a documentary filmmaker, and then moved into broadcast television, making a range of things, and then ended up being a bit of becoming an executive really, and sort of spending all the time indoors while everybody else was going out having adventures and stuff. And then I kind of I set up this sort of returning new talent drama strand when I was working at Channel 4, which was modeled on a documentary strand that I'd created a couple of years before. And that sort of got me interested in making drama, which is kind of what had got me interested in filmmaking in the first place. But then I'd gone on this whole route into documentary and then making factual television and stuff. And so, yeah, so I sort of wrote an idea for a low budget film, which Ollie was in, actually. Ollie played the son in the film. It's called Exhibit A. And I had my first experience of making a low budget independent film, and it won some festivals and got nominated for some awards. And it's still out there. People still find it, and was a really interesting, valuable experience. And then I kind of ended up running a television company, and I was developing a few things, but I wasn't really getting involved in many feature films during that time. I was just kind of trying to earn a living and pay everyone's wages and stuff. And then I decided to take a break from the TV industry completely, and I took a few years off just to parent. And it's an itch, and you end up kind of scratching it. And there was this idea that I had that was a kind of story of a couple of pages long, and Ollie read it, and he was just like, "You've got to do this. You've got to do this." And he was sort of saying that for a couple of years, and then finally I was like, all right, I'll do it,
I needed a job.
Yeah. And we sent it around to a few people, and much to my surprise and rather scarily, lots of people started saying, "Look, you've got to make this, and we'll help you." And and so Ferryman kind of was my return to filmmaking after a break, if you like.
Very cool. Really, really great to get that background. There's a lot of very diverse background in like what you've kind of worked with in broadcast and filmmaking. Yeah, Carli, tell me about your experience in acting or in the film industry.
So I was a child actor actually. I started when I was a baby. So I've kind of always done it. And around sort of 15, 16, I took a bit of a break. I was at a school that wasn't super keen on giving me the time off from exams and things to make films. So I had a bit of a break, and just like Darren said, complete itch, like got to kind of adult and thought, yeah, I really want to give this another go. And I always said to myself, if I ever move back to London, I'll do it. So I did, and I tried out, and luckily I managed to get an agent, and it was that agent that got me the role in Ferryman actually. So, and then Ferryman was my debut feature film. So I'd done a lot of short films, a lot of commercial stuff, some theatre, some voiceover, and had always wanted to get back into feature films because I did them when I was a kid. And yeah, this is my first go at it. So it was really exciting.
Yeah, well, congratulations for that. That's really awesome.
Thanks.
Ollie, your background in the acting and filmmaking.
So I started off, I guess, life being the sort of naughty kid. I struggled at school. I was quite the naughty kid. I would have gone with cheeky rather than naughty. I always thought the kids that were throwing tables and chairs were the naughty ones, not the ones joking around. But I as an adult now realised that being the cheeky one is just as bad. And I went to quite a lot of schools, and the only thing that I had an interest in was sports, acting, and art. And I really wanted to go to drama school. I did all the school plays and, you know, really enjoyed it. So did that. And then I was lucky that after college, I got an agent straight away. Like the luck couldn't have been more on my side. And through sort of like from 19 to late 20s, worked really regularly. TV dramas, independent films, long stints in soap operas and stuff like that. But it sort of came to a bit of an end when I became a dad and I couldn't audition anymore. And it really ground to a halt, to a point where I actively sort of stepped away. But I had a conversation with Darren that we'd had over email about this. So I sort of always in my head thought, you've still got this, keep pestering him to make it. He will make it because you won't stop emailing him. And we've nearly known each other 20 years now. And I think I email him twice a week. So he was definitely going to make it. And I just thought, no one else is going to give you the lead in a film anymore. So you got to jump on this and hope that you can use it if you want to do this again. And that's where we're at, mate. That's that, I think.
That's that. You know, this is so interesting because you know, there's kind of this commonality between you all where this is kind of your jump start back into filmmaking. I do wonder how, with all of you having kind of taken a break and come back at Ferryman, how that may have influenced the development and production of Ferryman. Do you think that there's something about coming back fresh to filmmaking and acting that helped improve how you guys approached this film?
I think it shows the passion's real. I think it shows that you're in this for the right things. You know, you're not in it for the sake of it or for the lifestyle you think it might give you. I think if you come back to something knowing how hard it is to do in the first place and you're willing to step in the ring and do it again, then I think it shows that the passion's there for it. And I think on a project like this, I think that is exactly what you have to have. But Darren might say otherwise.
Yeah, Darren, what do you think?
I think Ollie's nailed it there. I think it's this is going to sound really pretentious, and I'm tempted to apologize, but I don't think I should apologize. I think the world is in a very strange place, very challenging place, and I spent a long time trying to entertain people just because of the nature of the business I was in. You know, that was the content. It was all about getting eyeballs on the screen, selling advertising, you know, entertaining people, letting them escape. And I think I just hit a point in life where I thought, do you know what? That doesn't help. Actually, that distraction from what's really going on in our lives, in the world now, is really not helping. And so I kind of made a decision that I would only make films that I felt must be made, were important, and were about things that were difficult to talk about. And so drama or filmmaking was a good, you know, really good way of kind of bringing people together and starting a conversation. And I think that I think, you know, although clearly from what Ollie was saying, you know, it was all mind control, and actually I'm essentially a zombie just waiting for Ollie to tell me what to do next. But I think
you said it, not me.
I think somewhere
We've got it on camera.
Somewhere in there, I became convinced that this was really, you know, I think we felt it just so deeply that this was something that needs talking about, you know, and that, yeah, I mean, you know, we can get into the themes of the film maybe, but
yeah, we'll get to that in just a moment, because this is a very interesting subject matter for a film that we don't see all that often in filmmaking, and so we'll get to that in a moment. But I appreciate that insight. Carli, any thoughts on what it's, you know, the impact of coming in fresh back to filmmaking and making Ferryman?
For me, I think it's a kind of a curious mix of experience with fresh eyes. So for me, everyone else that I was working with seemed incredible, is and was incredibly experienced, and I was the kind of rookie and just learning from everybody. And I mean, I'd done short films, and so it wasn't my first time on camera or anything like that. But yeah, so from my perspective, everyone was super experienced and knew what they were doing and everything. So I think it's quite a nice mix of having that experience where it was important in terms of just working well together and knowing how to make these scenes come to life, but with the kind of fresh eyes of coming at it after a really long time, and being really excited about this story that we wanted to tell. So yeah, I think it was a really good, kind of really productive mix.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, let's talk about the film. Darren, for people who are maybe just discovering the film, can you give a synopsis on what Ferryman is about?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm glad you got that one.
Can you?
it's always hard to describe a film because one always feels like one's got to pitch it, which I don't really want to do. But essentially, it's a love story. But it's a love story in which two people who probably would not have come together have come together because of the nature of the very unusual, very extreme circumstances that they find themselves in. And life throws them together in a way that makes you see that, in a way that anyone can be matched with anyone in the right circumstances, if they come from the right place, and there's Eve on the one hand is someone very much kind of seizing life in a very different way because of what she knows about her future. And Ash is a very kind of emotionally wounded guy who is completely isolated, really, really cut off from everything, and is kind of dying internally. Yeah, he meets someone who is in a way throwing him a lifeline back to life. But death is the cloud that is kind of over their experience. So it's a very dark love story with lots of life and death conversation to be pondered.
Yeah, I think that I mean that's a very tactful way of I guess pitching or explaining the film to potential audiences. And yeah, there's a lot of that we'll get into here in a moment. Carli and Ollie, I'm interested, before we talk more about the themes, I'm interested in what drew you to this project. Like, what was it that said, like, yeah, that's a movie that I really want to be a part of?
It was number one on the call sheet to start with, so that was obviously something I'd have said yes to, whatever it was going to be about.
That's awesome.
Because no one's given me that gig. The first thing I ever read, I connected with because I too had lost my way in the world. I was lost. I didn't know where my place was, and I was lonely, and I think I just knew that I had that in me to tell. And yeah, I just thought I was very aware that I could do this because it was just in there. And I like that approach to any acting. I think you just have to trust what's inside you. And for this, I most definitely did, because I was living it at the same time, which I know sounds really morbid, but that's just where I was at that point. I'm not now. And it was, easy to tap into.
All right. Carli, what do you think? What drew you to playing Eve?
I think for me, overall, it was the concept. It was completely different from anything I'd been sent, anything I'd read. It was such an interesting, different story that I immediately wanted to kind of be part of telling it. And also for Eve, kind of an opposite answer to Ollie, really, in terms of I just fell in love with her, the way she was different to me, like in terms of her kind of independence and her strength and her grit. It was something that I hadn't really played before. I tend to be cast as kind of, I think we've talked about this before, Darren, like kind of kooky comedy, quirky girls, and she is a bit like that, a little bit, but underneath she has such a strength and a kind of determination that I was really drawn, and I really wanted to give that a go because I just hadn't been given the chance before. And so as soon as I read the script, I was thinking, yeah, definitely, I want to give that a shot.
Let's talk a little bit more about the themes and what these characters are dealing with.
Well, the had how to say this? I suppose the proximity to death having an impact on the way you live life was something that I have noticed over the years at different times in different situations, and something that had made me think deeply, as deeply as I'm capable of thinking, which is probably not very deep, but
Yeah.
I realized that when I was, whether it was having having an accident that could have easily gone the wrong way, or whether it was attending a friend's funeral, or whether it was nursing a loved one, there were times in life where the proximity to death made my proximity to death, whether it's mine or someone else's, made my life richer, made my attention much more, much richer, and made every moment valuable in a way that, for large parts of my life, I was kind of sleepwalking through, going through the motions and doing what I thought was what I was supposed to be doing, and I realized that that was a story that I wanted to tell. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that we live in a society where we tend not to think about death, or we consign death to white rooms with clinical settings with professionals, and we don't have it in the home like we used to. So we're not really prepared for it. And also we don't have the benefit of the impact of having a relationship with it. We will put everything off. All the important things, we will put them off. Whereas, when we think we don't have any time left, we don't put off the things that we want to do, and we just get on with doing them without worrying about whether we should or should not be doing them. And that seems to me is a better way to live. And that's really where the story came from.
Yeah, it certainly gets me thinking a lot. And after I watched it the first time, I did spend a lot of time thinking about well, what are the things that I'm putting off, and what if I was in that situation. And so I really do think the film does a good job of putting audiences in those shoes and really having the audience connect with these characters. Carli, let's talk about you and your character Eve, who's kind of one of is the motivator of this conversation around death. Tell me more about how you approached playing her, because yeah, she's definitely gritty, she's definitely confident, she's very independent, but she also has this desire based on her circumstances, and she has to deal with that. Tell me about approaching that character.
Yeah, it was tough because I think it was probably I think I found her reaction quite different from, for example, how my reaction would be in that situation. So putting myself in her shoes was quite difficult, but we had a lot of conversations about the things that were important to her. So, for example, she's a very vital, active person, and so we just had to find this way to make the most sense for her. And it was also really important, I think we talked about a lot about how it was for her. It's a decision that is important for her and not for everyone, so not for anyone else who's in her situation. So it was kind of finding a way to strike the balance between portraying that this is so crucial to her, to who she is, to have kind of freedom and the ability to live her life, that she wants to then to end it on her own terms, without suggesting that that's the answer in every situation. So Yeah, it was a tricky one. I think I just ended up reading a lot of interviews with people kind of who are towards the end of their life, or maybe who'd made similar decisions in kind of countries where that's allowed. Also, people in that situation in countries where it's not allowed, and how that makes them feel to have that decision taken away from them, just to kind of build up the picture of what she's thinking and what she's going through, and to kind of try and make it as truthful as possible to her situation.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Ollie, explain what in this movie a ferryman is and how you approached your character being a part of that world.
What Ferryman is and how I approach my character in that world. Well, for Ash, it's like I said before, it's that feeling of not having a place, existing but not having home, whether that's an emotional home or a physical home. He is a ghost, and I needed to approach this as honestly as I could. I needed to feel that I could be completely stripped back and, let that feeling really take over me. And like I said, because I was experiencing similar feelings, it helped but also hindered, because it was very close to me. Those emotions were at the top, but it was having the confidence to let them out. And in terms of the story and what we do, for me it was, and for Ash, it was learning that my job isn't to save Eve, it's just to love her.
You're right. I mean, I think both Carli and Ollie, you guys really, hit the nail on the head, of course, with your characters and how difficult it is to approach this subject matter of, the choice of not wanting to exist anymore, and also so how that is for Eve, but also how that is for the other characters that she is interacting with. One of the things that's incredibly heartbreaking about this film is seeing the people that loves her um really grapple with how to deal with her decision. Parenting has come up in this conversation. We have a couple parents a part of this crew.
Yep.
And yeah, and one of the biggest components of this film is Eve's parents really having a hard time dealing with this decision. If you don't mind, can you maybe talk about some parallels in that component of the story, and what you think or feel about how those parents manage this, and maybe some insight on how you would approach that.
Yeah, it was really important to me that and Carly touched on this earlier, that we were not, whilst we were exploring this very difficult subject, the right to die, essentially, the right to die in a way that works for you and that doesn't confine you to unimaginable pain for a period you have no control over. So losing control of your life to a disease or to a condition or whatever your situation is. And the story is not an advertisement for that. It is not, we're not advocating that. It's very, very much about, in some situations, given the choice between these awful things, which one is a good choice for this character, and that allows the audience a chance to put themselves in that situation, and it just raises it as a subject, really. And hopefully by the time you get to that point in the movie, your heart is open because you care about the characters, and so it lands deeply enough for it to be a cathartic, or at least thoughtful. In any situation where someone decides to take their own life, and I've known people take their own life, so I have witnessed some of that and experienced some of those emotions myself. That sense of feeling that wasn't fair on the rest of us. And lots of other complicated emotions that come from these situations. It was really important that that go into the film. However, the film had to end with the characters where they are. It's a love story, and it has to end with the two characters. To then go back to the family, or to see the kind of repercussions of what happens on the other characters, would not work. So it was really important to find a way to bring the family into the story just before the end of the film, and to see the impact that it has, that losing Eve has, and losing Ash, because he becomes part of the family. Yeah, to see the impact that that has on those left behind. And so that whole kind of sequence is really constructed to put another argument around her staying forward, but also to show the devastation that will come from anyone's death, you know, especially someone who is as loved as Eve is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very good answer. Is there any other weighing in on this, you know, this idea of like maybe what the takeaway is with this film and how it approaches this this right to die subject matter that we're dealing with here?
It's not a message movie, it's a conversation movie, I
Conversation
think.
movie.
So,
That's a really good distinction. I appreciate you.
yeah, I mean, our hope was that people would be moved by it, and therefore open to allow thoughts and to share about it. I mean, what, you know, one of the things that I love about cinema, and one of the things that motivates me to make films for the big screen rather than for, say, you know, YouTube or a mobile or another viewing situation, is that it's a communal activity. You know, it's a community space. Even if it's ends up on TV or something, you know, often there's somebody else there. And there's just that opportunity to turn to the person next to you and say, well, I feel like this. How do you feel? And a conversation starts. And I think that is a more responsible way to make films than to have a all you need is family message, for instance, just as an example, and then, you know, try to construct a story that delivers that message.
I absolutely appreciate a film that keeps me thinking after it's over. You know, something that when the credits are rolling, that you know, afterward, whoever I see it with, or if I see it in the theater, I can grab a beer with afterward at the local pub, or maybe call up and say, hey, let's talk about this movie. Like, those are some of my favorite films, because I think that film is such a really great a great catalyst for conversation when it's done right. And so, you know, I appreciate that here in Ferryman, because it certainly does open up that conversation and really, you know, gives us a lot of perspectives on you know, on the topic. And it's just something that to talk about, and you know, just recognize is a thing and discuss. So I appreciate that a lot about the film. What I also appreciate is that it, you know, it's a heavy subject, but there are also lighthearted components to the film as well. So let's talk about some of the more fun aspects of the film. Even Ash, they certainly have really happy times together in the midst of all of this. And so I just want to talk about a couple scenes that were kind of fun. Early on when they meet, I know that there's a parking garage scene with a dumpster that that they get to kind of, you know, have fun with. Tell me about filming that scene and like where that came from, and just how that fell into place.
Everyone loves that scene.
Yeah,
but,
everyone always mentions it.
Everyone comments on that scene because it looks beautiful and it's fun, and you know, I've never seen, you know, anyone use that way, but it was an absolute nightmare to do. An absolute nightmare. We were all falling out, people were stropping, crew wanted to go home. I think Darren shouted at someone at one point.
I think I shouted at everyone at some point.
I believe it or not, went a bit quiet. But it was still really fun. It was really, really fun, and it's really pretty, and it's a real point, isn't it, where he finally catches her, but we sort of brush over that so quickly because we end up in this really special, cute moment. But after all that running, he has actually caught her, and they're together, they're next to each other, they're looking at each other. And it's probably more important and more beautiful than I think we realize, because we're just enjoying their fun. And that's probably exactly what it's in there for, is for that. And it was important to have fun in there. We went back and added more fun because we realized it's needed. It's part of real life. It's part of a relationship. It's part of dark subjects. There is light in dark subjects. And yeah, everyone loves that scene. And do you think we were in that bin when it went down, or do you think that bin went down empty? Because I'm not going to tell you. Well, that jacket has never smelled better.
I was wondering, but that's funny. Carli, what was your perspective of shooting that scene?
I think that one of the reasons it worked so well is because we were having such a difficult evening. But I think one of the things I really loved about making Ferryman is that we had a lot of fun during some really rough times. Ollie is so great at making things fun when everyone's stressed. So we would be, well, it's true, we would have kind of really rough scenes that we'd be filming that were really emotionally difficult. And then for me, like, rather than coming out of it and staying in it for the next take, I would have to come out of it and joke around or have a good time, because otherwise we would have just, we were shooting so much in such a short space of time, it would have just been too much. So I think that evening I've got a video of us somewhere doing our keep warm dance, because it was so cold. Yeah, and we were like, there was like 3 of us in a line doing some kind of some kind of little line dance thing.
Behind the scenes footage. I
would love to see that.
Yeah, I know. I'll see if I can dig it out. It's super cute. It's us and Ellie, the makeup artist, and Chris. I think we're doing some kind of like, but we were having fun in the middle of a really difficult situation, and I think that just came across because it was really truthful. And I think that's maybe why that scene also resonates with a lot of people, because it was what we were doing in real life.
Yeah, that's great. Another scene that stood out to me, and like as soon as the scene happened, I was like, wow, that's so cool that they are shooting there. I want to ask about that. Well, no, it's the observatory. Although I'm curious what you're thinking.
Yeah, what were you thinking?
I'm not going to tell you.
Oh no! See, now I have to come back around to that. But the observatory was a really, really cool scene, and I just wanted to get a little more background information on like getting that location and filming there.
Well, both of those scenes actually come from the restrictions that we had, which is we had no money, and we had a student crew actually, and we had very little time in which to make it. And so early on we made the decision that my house would be the production base. It takes a lot of time to move the crew from one place to another. And we only had a few days to shoot the film in. So another decision that was made was that we would find locations within a 10-minute drive. So I drew a red ring around my house, and the house features in the film. The house is kind of a character in the film as well. In fact, the house doubles as other locations within the film. We just kind of moved things around and cut to close up. You're actually in a different building. That's the magic of movies, as they say. And so both of those locations came out of me driving around and around within that 10-minute area circumference, and incorporating that into the script. So I did the journey of the first night that they meet. And I just kind of tried to find things, and I found that multi-story car park, and I thought, what would they do here? And I realized that there was a thing that would be very revealing of the Eve character, or where she is in her in that moment, you know, the sort of thing that she would do in the playfulness, and also it was an opportunity to not, you know, to create an icebreaker and shift the tone of the movie and establish their playfulness together, their relationship together. But also it helped to establish that Ash had that availability for the intervention that was Eve. So, you know, he, although he's going through a very difficult time, he is a very playful person at heart. And it was a chance to kind of show that he, you know, he has that capacity. And I think that's one of the reasons why the scene works, is because you're seeing their true nature, and you're seeing what's really going on, but you're seeing it kind of played out through a piece of fun action rather than through dialogue and stuff. And then the observatory, I mean, I literally drove past it, and I was like, wow, that's just around the corner from where I live. I didn't even know that was there. And so I turned around, drove in, and knocked on the door, and there were these little science types, you know, in their white coats, kind of like eating their noodles, kind of like, what, you know. I was like, well, I'm making a film, and I think my character, you know, could be an astrologist, and you know, would it be okay to shoot here? And they were like, yeah, sure. And it was, you know, kind of as simple as that, really. And then so we just, you know, tweaked the character slightly. She had been a lecturer at the university. Now she became an astrologer at the university. And yeah, it just evolved, just organic for both scenes, really.
That's really cool. That awesome background information, and I mean that was a very wise approach to working with a low budget and limited time. So I'm glad that those locations were within the circumference. That's awesome.
If we'd done it where I live, we'd have been in like a small brothel down the road.
We'd have made
so I'm
that
glad
work,
we did
Ollie.
it where you live.
We'd have made it work.
That's funny. Any other thoughts on the observatory scene and you know, shooting at the observatory and whatever, and what happens in that scene, just the conversation?
Other than it was so cool to be there, like apart from the fact we had a scene to shoot and had to remember where our characters were and our emotions are, we were actually in that thing and looking through that telescope. Like that was amazing. Like you don't get to do that. Like, and you know, I couldn't believe how clear you can see a moon through one of those things. Like that is unbelievable. I still tell people about that now. Like loads of us would be peering through that thing for ages, trying to get pictures on our phones through it. Yeah. And it is unreal. Yeah, I felt really lucky to
yeah, I remember being annoyed because Ollie's character, it's like the first time he's in that situation, and I had to try and be like, yeah, I come in here all the time, like whatever, this is my job, you know, like this old thing. And in my head I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And I wanted to be, but then it was kind of nice because for Eve, I think she says something like one last time, so that kind of does play into it, that she still does have that kind of awe for her job and what she does and her interests, and so it kind of worked, I hope, because she was still kind of looking around kind of through his eyes as well, and wanting to show it off. But yeah, I remember being like, contain yourself. It's pretty cool.
I think I've just realized that I was saying astrology rather than astronomy.
You know, I was trying to think of the word because astrology, I was like, wait, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but what is the right word?
He's big into star signs.
That's right. Okay, cool.
Like Mystic Meg or something.
Yeah.
That's
looking
funny.
into the future.
I missed that in the film. I'm gonna have to watch it again.
Yeah, no, that was a really, really good scene. Anyway, so let's go ahead and wind down. Really, I kind of want to talk just I want to end the conversation really kind of on the craft of what you guys do. So we'll start with maybe Ollie, acting. What are your recommendations or your suggestions based on your experience for people who are maybe looking into getting into acting?
I think if it's not in you as a need, you have something in you that has a obsession with human emotion and storytelling, it's not for you, because no matter how talented you are, it's not an easy gig. There's a lot of talent out there, and there's a lot of change in the way we cast stuff, what roles are available to you, and it has to be deep in your core that you are just obsessed with how humans react with humans. And I am. I can't not at least be chipping away at this forever. Mm-hmm. And I think if you've got that in you, then you can do it. But it's not going to be easy. But it shouldn't be, should it? It shouldn't be. And you should, I guess I'm learning now in my 30s, deep in my 30s, is to not be envious of other people's careers and the way, friends and stuff that have gone, and you go, they're doing better than me, or they're doing this and I'm not doing that. It's appreciate the stuff you are doing, and be proud of it, and it's worth, because it's not easy out there. It's not easy, but you get gems like this to be involved in. Like, this is like the job. Like, I can't, there'll be other stuff I do. I hope I do more stuff, but this will always be up there. This will always be up there.
That's really awesome. Carli, what do you think?
Yeah, I think kind of piggybacking on what Ollie said there, just also to have other things. It's so easy to get kind of dragged into the industry, and like Ollie said, comparison and things like modern day stuff like social media, all of that side of it that comes with it, that you kind of feel like you have to do, but it's so easy to let yourself get dragged into that and to compare yourself to other people all the time, is just to also have other outlets for creativity. So anything, it doesn't like, you don't even have to be good at it, but just anything else, so that you're not so that you don't have that kind of how should I say it, like, I can't think of the word now, but that kind of pressure on yourself is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So you can allow yourself to release your creativity in other ways, because otherwise I think, again, like Ollie said, you are just constantly being like, why am I not doing this, or I need to have something lined up, or other people are doing that and I'm not doing that. And yeah, I think it's really important to enjoy it, to do it when you enjoy it, and not kind of force yourself into it if you don't want to, I guess. Yeah, I just said what Ollie said, basically.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, getting that from both your perspectives is awesome. Darren, on the filmmaking side of things, for those who maybe want to get into filmmaking or are early on in their filmmaking careers, what are your recommendations?
I would say that it's the, in a way, the best time to be interested in filmmaking, because the internet gives you a ready-made audience, and the tools are cheap. You can make a film on your phone. We shot Ferryman with a domestic camera. I mean, it wasn't even a video camera; it was a stills camera that we hacked so to output a video signal from. Yeah, I mean, now is the time. Just go out and shoot stuff, just make stuff, and then put it together. The software is free, the tools are in your pocket. Just, go and do it. And if you're rubbish at it, enjoy yourself. And if you're talented, put it out there and share it and get some feedback. But I would go along with I think the undercurrent of the guys there is like, if you're not enjoying it, don't do it. It's not worth having a bad time over, and it's not worth, I think it's not worth putting a lot of effort into, unless you get something back from it, unless the mode of expression or the act of expressing, telling a story and expressing an idea, or discussing the themes that you want to see discussed, if that doesn't turn you on, then it's not really something to do for the money, or for chances of you earning money in this industry are pretty low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ollie and I just heavily nodding in the background.
Yeah.
Great.
setting proper expectations.
That's why we've got real jobs.
We got
Yeah.
I get that too. Doing the film criticism and journalism thing, not a whole lot of money here either. So we're all on the same page. um, but no, what's really great is the experiences. And for me, this conversation is one of those experiences. I really appreciate having the chance to talk with you guys about this film, and I congratulate you on getting it complete, getting it out there in the world, and you know, I'm just wishing you the film the best and wishing you guys the best going forward in your careers.
Oh, thank you, man.
Of
Oh,
course,
I
guys.
feel like we're friends
Absolute
now.
delight to meet you and talk to you, mate. Really lovely.
No.